Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever it is for you. Welcome back to a Division 2 video. We had a dev stream and they dropped a bunch of information. All changes to escalations, to prototype gear and a bunch more. And of course talking about the changes and the things coming for Season 2. The dev stream took about an hour. They answered a few questions and they talked about everything that will be changed and adjusted versus the two phases of the PTS we had last week. Starting with the token economy, although escalation and prototype gear are not new features for this season, we use the PTS to experiment with solutions to some of the most pressing feedback we heard from the community. The token economy and its distribution between group members and the leader, for example, is something we want to revisit, and the PTS helped us to explore other options. We made token rewards for the leader more generous and less punishing to fill a tier and climb back again, all based on feedback. We then thought it would be the best to update the prototype vendor and increase the prices for the caches to adjust this economy. After reviewing feedback from the PTS, it was clear that the changing both at the same time was perceived as taking away from the player. Because of that, we are reverting the change, and escalation requisition vendor prices will remain the same as they are in the live game. 5 and 10 tokens. At the same time, we're keeping the changes that provide to have positive impact on the experience, including the update token distribution and the return of crate drops. So they reverted a few things back. All the caches will still be the same as in-game. 5 for the random one and 10 for the other caches, but the change in the token economy will be applied. This will be the new change in the economy, and then of course the leader will get more tokens. And then of course the return of the fan favorite crate drops. Yes, from Season 2 we will have the opportunity to open up caches, crates within missions, and that has an opportunity to drop that prototype gear again. So huge W for that. So for the escalation itself, we will see the requisition vendor prices being kept to existent prices in the live game. And we're even getting 1 token for the tier 0 rewards, what already helps out a little bit more. We also heard feedback about the augment reroll cost, and we understand that spending prototype cores while trying to get the right augment can feel frustrating, especially when the cost keeps increasing while the chance to get what you want does not change. For this update, we are changing the cap to 6 prototype cores. Larger changes to the reroll system itself are not planned right now, but this should make rerolling easier, and that is a huge W. So whenever you're trying to find your preferred augment, it will only set you back a max of 6 when looking for it, what is 25 right now. So everyone and their mom looking for their best augment, wait until next season. Wait until Tuesday to re-roll all of this. That will save you a lot of prototype cores. So the changes that we'll see with Season 2 for the prototype gear is augment reroll cost has been reduced and now caps at 6 prototype cores starting from the 3rd reroll. And augment upgrade costs have been adjusted to be cheaper on additional levels and more expensive later on. The total cost will be capped to the existing price of the live game, with the PTS increased values being reverted based on the community feedback. So don't worry, the augments are not getting more expensive. It will stay exactly the same as we know it in the game right now. We are also looking at the mutator pool for escalations. Our goal is to rotate mutators over time to keep the experience fresh, but we saw your concerns around some of the upcoming options. For launch, we are adding 1 new mutator to the pool and will continue refining the formula before adding new ones in the future. And with these we see a bunch of changes and a bunch of very good changes. For the mutators we see that Anchor has been removed from all tiers, and that will now be replaced by Variety Pack, and that mutator will start at tier 5. Hot Food has changed to start applying at tier 7. Unyielding has changed to cleanse all status effects once at a set armor health threshold instead of granting full immunity. And that is such a huge W. Same as Harvester, as it has been changed to be fully disabled on NPCs by damage them with a grenade or applying a status effect. And these are such great changes, especially Unyielding. Yes, they will still cleanse themselves from all status effects applied on them if they hit a certain armor health threshold. But after that, we can apply it instantly again. So you will instantly remove that overhealing from that Harvester enemy. Huge changes for the mutators, and I'm very curious how the variety pack will go when the game is live. And like we know, next season will all be about the Dark Zone and the PvE variant of it as well. While we tested it on the PTS for 2 phases, there are a bunch of changes, and again a bunch of good changes to the new system. We've been closely following your feedback around the Dark Zone changes. One of these related to the Toxic Dark Zone, the PvE variant, is the Stabilization Agent adds an extra layer of risk to help balance out the extra rewards that we added to the Hunter as exotic components. To help with that, we are reducing DC landmarks chest cooldowns and making chest loot available to all nearby enemies, regardless of whether they are in a group. We are also adding stabilization agents as a possible drop from landmark bosses. So for these, we see the changes: reduced landmark chest cooldowns across all dark zones to 20 minutes. It went from 30 to 20. And they increased the Dark Zone key drop rates from landmark bosses and named enemies to 20% across all Dark Zones. We also like the reaction players had to the Hunters dropping exotic components in the PvE DZ. With the PvP Dark Zones being a higher risk, we adjusted the exotic components reward to even out the extra risk that players take by going into the PvP Dark Zone. We are increasing exotic component drop chances from landmark chests in PvP Dark Zone variants and adding a chance of an exotic component to drop from the higher difficulty landmark bosses. And these are huge changes. Risk and reward, and now within the PvP Dark Zones is the best way to get your exotic components out. As they increase the exotic component drop chance in landmark chests in the PvP Dark Zone variants to 40%, where it is still 25% in the PvE version. The drop chance for the exotic components for the landmark, for bosses, for challenging and heroic landmarks in PvP are as followed: 33% chance for a challenging landmark and 48% from a heroic landmark, meaning that you have 48% of getting an exotic component to drop. And then for the Toxic Dark Zone, the PvE Dark Zone, chests now drop loot for all players around when opened, regardless of group affiliation. Of course, you can't be all the way on the other side of the map. You have to be in proximity of the chest when it gets opened up. Stabilization agents now can drop from landmark bosses in addition to landmark chest. Huge W, good change. Increase the Dark Zone key drop rate on Hunter enemies. The Dark Zone keys are of course the keys that we use to open up those Dark Zone caches. And then at last, the canister caches are now guaranteed drop in every landmark chest. Those canister caches give you a bunch of canisters, what you can then trade into for the new season. But we will dive in all of that information when the new season is out. As of course, we're getting a full overhaul on all PvP gear and or talents, getting 350 plus talents and or gear changed for the PvP version. There are a lot of changes, but I feel happy where it was on phase 2 of the PTS. The impact of the new gear introduced with Into the Dark looked solid overall. One of our main takeaways was around the Caduceus, the PTS version had an incorrect value implemented, 3% instead of 2%, but your feedback showed that the higher value was balanced enough to keep, so the Caduceus will now read 3% of the hits dealt damage instead of 2. So we're going up a little bit for the Caduceus as well, although apparently on the second phase of the PTS, it already was set to 3%, but it told us it was 2. And that's overall pretty much everything that they talked about. They touched on a few things, they answered a few questions within the stream itself as well. Like for example, the mods in Escalations, the gear mods, the skill mods. They will now drop you a high value mods as well. So whenever you run an Escalation and it's gear mods or skill mods, you get a big chance to get high value mods. High-end 12% critical hit damages, 6% critical hit chances. Thinking about that, maxed out mods will be a lot easier to farm through this. And then there were a couple of questions about the N64, the PlayStation 2, the Minecraft lock that we sometimes get on the consoles. And apparently it seems to be a memory management problem and they're still looking into it. They keep finding things to better the system. And of course, it wouldn't be a Division stream if everyone and their mom asked about crossplay. They answered it, but it's not coming in next season. They're still working on it. When it's ready, they will drop it, but it won't be in the second season. So hopefully we'll see it in the third or even in the fourth season. The only thing that we know, we will see it coming this content year. And that's overall pretty much it. I think they made a bunch of good changes, especially re-rolling everything back to the current versions or the current values, but still keeping the values that the community was happy about. But now, of course, I want to hear your opinion. Do you think that all these changes are nice? I think that the extra exotic components that we can get and at 48% in the PvP version of it is such a great change. The high risk, high reward, more people will be introduced to the Dark Zone next season, and in that way it will probably be a lot easier to step into the PvP Dark Zone after getting used to the PvE one. I can't wait, but of course I want to hear your opinion. Hit me up in the comments down below, and that's pretty much it for me today. Thank you very much for sticking until the end. Like the video if you liked the video or helped you out in any way or form. If you're new here and or you want to be updated by the Division 2, make sure to hit that subscribe button as well. And I will see you in the next one. Pure Prime out.